Welcome. I hope you enjoy the conversation you're about to see between me and another comedian about religion and comedy. These are conversations I'm calling disorganized religion. God bless. And for those atheists out there, may nothing await you after this life.
Hey nerds, welcome to another edition of Disorganized Religion. I am your host, Seth Lawrence, as always. And this week we're joined by the funny and beautiful Nikki Bon. Nikki, thank you for joining us.
Like, obviously you're married because you called me beautiful. No
Obviously.
comic has ever called me beautiful. Like,
Really?
You obviously have a wife. No.
Oh my gosh, that's so, how shameful of these men out there and women not to discriminate.
I agree. Thank you. I was like, my boyfriend doesn't even call me beautiful. That was like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, that's why you're married.
Yeah. Well, as
We're
long
trained.
what does he call you then?
Nothing. Like, he doesn't call me anything.
So he just treats you like a cat?
Just like, yeah, like, oh, look at your cute face.
Who do we
Literally,
have
I guess I
here?
am a cat. Yeah, I guess that's how I'm treated. My cute face.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Nikki,
that's-
I feel like you and I got to know each other most in Las Vegas, which outside of context sounds really bad.
Yeah, well, depends who you are. It sounds
I guess
pretty
that's true.
cool.
But as a married
you know,
man, that
yeah,
sounds terrible.
a married
you know?
Mormon man. Yeah.
Yeah, very bad.
Yeah.
But we performed with the World Series of Comedy together in
Mhm.
Vegas. That's really where I feel like I got to know you. And
Yeah.
then again at JR's in Valencia, California.
Just all these great venues.
That now are shut down forever.
Yeah, we went and had dinner at that weird place in Vegas.
Yeah, that
Afterwards.
hotel spot, right?
Yeah, then my friend who lived in Vegas for 10 years was like, "Where did you go to eat?" And I told her, and she was like, "That is actually the shittiest place in Vegas." And I was
Right?
like, yeah. I asked the guy, "How's the chicken noodle soup?" And he just described what chicken noodle soup was. I was like,
Yeah.
that's not, yeah.
And he looked at you as though you were an insane person who
Yeah.
didn't know what chicken
Yeah.
noodle soup was.
I said, how's the chicken noodle soup? And he goes, "It's pretty good. I like it. It's flavorful, but I haven't had it here. I just had chicken noodle soup. I had my mom's." I'm like, "No, I know what chicken noodle soup tastes like. What are you talking about? I don't know how your mom's chicken noodle." That was so insane.
Yeah. I just want to know, how does this anyway? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did not choose this location. We went with a
No.
group of performers with the evening to get some feedback on our sets.
Mhm.
And as I recall, we got some decent feedback
Yeah,
that night. So
yeah,
it's
we
good.
did.
Yeah.
Wait, did you place that night?
No.
No,
Thanks for rubbing it in.
but you placed the next night.
At JR's I placed.
How did you
Yeah.
do the next time?
Well, what do you mean at JR's?
Mm-hmm.
I got third.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So that went fine. And then we were going to perform again, right? You and I were going to be on the same show again, Arch
Yeah.
Nemesis again in Arizona, which has exploded with coronavirus.
So what's like, I don't even know. All I know is how we were exploding. Yeah, and they kept telling us. It was so funny because then one day he's like, "Guys, don't worry, we're going to perform." And I kind of was like, I don't know if I want to. Like, I can't decide.
Yeah. And then it was the next day that he
Yeah.
texted saying they've actually shut it down. We're gonna reschedule. It's been postponed. So.
Yeah, it was. My boyfriend was like, "Really, you're gonna like go and do this?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess." But did your wife, was she like, "It's okay, go do it," or what was she?
No, my wife was like, "That sounds insane," and I said, "Yeah, but it's probably going to be canceled." And so she and I both were sort of like, "I think it's going to be canceled anyway." So my logic was it would be better to hold the spot in case they do postpone it.
Yeah.
And if they don't postpone it, then I'll go and not touch anyone or anything.
Exactly.
I wasn't even going to take the mic out of the stand.
I bring my own mics. I went to one open mic last week.
Oh.
And I brought my own mic.
Yeah. So how was the open mic you went to?
Okay, so it was fourth wall, and it was great. Like, okay, it wasn't that great, but like it was around the time that people have been doing like the underground mics, and I was like, I'm definitely not doing that. But then things things start to open up, restaurants, all that. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go and do a mic. I felt like everybody was doing it. So like, I obviously do what everybody does. No,
Right.
but I just was like, okay, you know what? Everything is opening up. All the mics are opening up.
Must be okay.
It must be okay. But I also knew necessarily what, like, I wasn't like, I'm going to get back on the train. It was kind of, I used to do like, how many mics did I do? I did like at least 7 a week, and 7 to 10, and I wasn't gonna do that. I was like, oh, it was one of those things where it's like, it was like going out for dinner, where you're like, well, I did it once this month, so I'm good.
Yeah. Just to get some reps in.
Yeah, just to get, that's how I was like, well, maybe I'll get up. So I went, and they were like, all of them are saying we clean the mic after everyone wears a mask. So I was like, that's cool.
Great.
I was going to go to Mics for Left, but then I was like, it's such a small room. That's so dumb. Like, that's actually so dumb.
Yeah. So did you get some pizza? Is that the location you
No,
went
I
to?
didn't get the pizza. That's where I went though.
Yeah, that's a nice big room.
It's a big room.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is fine. But then, and he was cleaning the mics, but I went there and no one was wearing a mask. And for me, I was like, okay, and I kept it. Some people wore a mask and then they took it off when they got in there. I'm like, no, that's the opposite of what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to like wear it inside when you go outside, like you're outside.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then
oh boy.
Yeah, so then I kept it on the whole time. I was like, I'm not taking it off because I see my parents and it's just like, I can't, I gotta be careful.
So you performed with the mask on?
I did. Well, no. So then when I got on stage, everyone had their masks off.
Sure.
And then I was like, listen, guys, because I realized it's all like 20-year-old boys. And I was like, I feel like a loser because you guys aren't taking your masks off, or because you took your masks off. But then I realized, I was like, but then I realized I'm fucking 10 years older than you. I'm not going to listen to a bunch of 24-year-old boys, you fucking idiots. And
good for you.
That. Yeah, I was like, oh, you're so cool with their masks off. Anyways,
yeah,
I took it off. When I put my own mic in, I was like trying to speak through it, and then I was like, okay, I can't. So then I took it off while I was up there with my own mic, and then I put it back on.
Got it. Did you see guys in the audience start to put their masks on as you were berating them? No. They weren't there to impress you at all.
No, they didn't see, because they don't call me beautiful. So
unbelievable.
They didn't even bring masks.
They didn't even have them?
They didn't even have them.
Jeez, this generation, this
I hope
Gen
they die.
Z.
Isn't that bad? Like, it's weirdly enough, okay, I don't hope they die, but I hope they get it.
Yeah, and get real sick.
That's coming from a genuine place. I realize I'm a horrible person. But when I'm like, you guys, like, if you're not wearing a mask because you forgot it, whatever.
Yeah.
If you're not wearing a mask because you actually believe in that, to be honest, I'm like, to each their own. If that's what you believe. But if you're not wearing a mask because you're a 24-year-old boy who's trying to be cool, then I hope you fucking shit your pants with the Rona.
Yeah, I mean, even those who claim it's a 100% hoax.
Yeah.
I also think maybe we shouldn't, copy those people. Like, they should not procreate.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, at least we agree on something. We might not agree on much as this podcast continues, but at least we agree on who should not procreate. How long have you been doing stand-up, Nikki?
4 years, 4.5, I guess.
Yeah.
4? Well, I mean, I should probably take the half off, considering I haven't done it in 4 months. So, 4 years.
Oh, man. Yeah. I keep thinking about how nice it feels to be on the same page as all the professional comedians, the paid regulars at the Comedy Store. We're all doing the same number of gigs, baby.
I know. It kind of is like settling, isn't it? Like, it's like, you're like, well, I feel okay about where I'm at.
Yeah, we're all on the same page. How do you think the comedy scene is going to be post? I mean, busy? Do you think they're going to be more comedians, less because they can't do it anymore? What do you think is going to happen when the whole world opens up again?
I genuinely don't know. And people like talk about, everybody's like, is comedy going to end? And
I don't think it's going to end.
I don't think so. I really don't know. I think that a lot of people, are you still in LA?
Yeah.
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 I think a lot of people have moved back home.
Yeah.
And I was saying, and I don't know how that will turn out for people. Like, and
Right.
I just say that in the sense of like, I wouldn't move back home myself because I think that it would like put me into the comfort zone of like, it's kind of like going back into reality. You know what I mean? Like you're not doing stand up, you're back at home, you're back where like you grew up and your friends, and either you could hate it or you could be like, oh, this is nice, and it gets comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
Like getting in your bed at 3 o'clock and being like,
Yeah. It's cozy.
yeah, yeah. So I don't really know what to expect, and
What
I'm
do you
not
hope
really.
happens? Do you hope that all those who had to move home can't come back?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had the same thought. There are some that I
Yeah.
would love to see come back, but
Yeah.
I think all of the open mics were way too overcrowded,
I
and
agree.
if we can wean some of them out, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think I hope it does wean people out. I also, though, like the one thing that makes me think and like worry or hate myself is like the people that are doing mics throughout all of this, and I just won't do it because I have
Yeah.
asthma too, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
just, yeah,
You're at
I'm like
risk.
I'm a walking death case.
Yeah, you
And
can't be
so
out.
I do wonder, I'm like, are people that are doing mics right now going to be the ones that make it? And then I think
Oh,
about it and I'm like, nah. But
yeah.
that does kind of filter out like the devotees or just the really lonely people that don't have a life outside of stand up.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a devotee kind of thing because, as you're talking about, there are young guys out there doing it who haven't even fully developed their brain yet. They don't
Yeah.
know, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there are people that have to do this, as you're talking about, because they're so lonely. And then there are those that think if I keep doing this, I will make it.
Yeah.
But at some
Yeah.
level, for some of us, it doesn't matter how many times we do this, we're not going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
mean, yeah, it's true. It's true. Let's name them.
Yeah.
No.
You
Because
send me the list and I will confirm.
I got a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I think that there's part that like it will wean people out, but I think it's going to be even harder because I think it's going to get all the work that we put in to get on shows and stuff like that. I feel like could be lost. Like all the shows that we did before, the people that you knew before, have they forgotten about me? I mean, that's my abandonment issues, but I'm like, have I been forgotten about? Like,
Sure.
am I going to be asked to be on shows? I don't like, no one's going to remember me. It's such a weird, that's my
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
disaster brain.
I feel like it's all on pause. I don't feel like
Yeah.
it's a, shark swimming and if you stop moving, you die kind of a
Yeah.
situation. I think it's just on pause. Everyone's treading water. And
Yeah.
then once things come back, people are going to want Nikki Bon back on their show because they liked Nikki Bon,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think
But
it's going to be lost.
I just wonder if the shows are going to be harder to get on because there's going to be less people in the crowd. I don't know. I guess
Oh,
it's just
less
if
people
there's a
coming out.
vaccine. Yeah, if there's a
Yeah.
vaccine, then things will be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people are going to be anxious for entertainment when it is safe to go out. I also think people will weigh the risks, and I think outdoor shows are going to be coming back stronger. I
Yeah.
think that's what's going to be up first, which they're tougher shows,
Uh-huh.
but I think those are going
Yeah.
to be the more accessible ones. I mean, my wife was like, hey, why don't you contact a drive-in movie theater, which is a great idea. And
Yeah.
then come to find out, Bert Kreischer's been doing that in the Midwest with his tour. He's doing
No
drive-in movie
way.
theaters. Yeah, he posted about it on Instagram.
Wow. Oh yeah,
So
right. And then they sit in their car and they honk when.
yeah,
Yeah.
which sounds terrifying, but could
Horrible.
be fun. I don't know. I mean, I think there are going to be some adjustments that will have to be made,
Yeah. Yeah.
before traditional live stand-up comes back for sure. But
Yeah. I agree.
yeah. So have you done all of it in LA, all 4.5 years?
Yeah, I have. I started in LA. Which is, did you start in LA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I started, I had never wanted to do stand up. Like, it really wasn't anything. It wasn't even on my radar. And like, I had a friend that did it, and I was like, eh, I
Yeah.
could never do it. And then I moved to New York, and I had another friend there who did stand up, and he was like, you should do stand up. And I was like,
No.
absolutely not. Like, wasn't even like, it never even made me go, oh, like I genuinely was like, I can't do that. I can't write jokes. I can't do any of that. And
Interesting.
then, yeah, like I really couldn't wrap my head around it, but I did
Yeah.
improv, and I did
Okay.
UCB and all, and Second City and all that shit.
And you did
And
that in New
then
York, or you?
I did Second City in Toronto, and
Oh,
then I
okay.
did UCB in New York.
Got it.
And then I moved here, and then I did UCB in Groundlings out
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you moved to LA for improv.
I moved to LA for an acting school, actually. I was going to Atlantic,
Oh, okay.
which is a New York conservatory. And then they said, oh, you moved to LA, finish the program there. You'll study with William H. Macy and
Wow.
David Mamet. Like they owned the school and they were
Yeah.
running it. And I was like, that's sick. I'll go. So I moved here, and then they canceled it 3 weeks before it was supposed to start.
No.
Yeah.
That's awful. Why did
It
they
was
cancel it?
because they didn't have enough students.
Get out of here.
No, like they didn't promote it in LA enough. So they were kind of banking on getting like famous people to be students, I guess, and they didn't. Like
What?
they were just not good at promoting it. And like they
Oh,
made me go
geez.
through the ringer for the audition. Like it wasn't like, "Oh, go to the school." Like I had to
Yeah.
like properly audition and do an interview and all that kind of jazz. And then yeah,
And then
and
you got here.
I got here, I bought a car,
Oh my
I got an
gosh.
apartment, like I did everything, and then they just canceled it. I remember getting the call, and it was like, "Hi, oh, so message machine. I
Oh,
have some upsetting
jeez.
news. We're gonna have to cancel it, but I hope that you have a thank you. Like, be in touch." And I was like,
What?
I lost it. I like
Yeah,
screamed at them.
because you moved for that class.
I moved for it. I was like, that was my diving board. I have nothing here. I have
Oh,
one friend. I have
yeah.
nothing else. All my family's on the East Coast. Like,
Yeah.
I have absolutely nothing. And
Oh
they were
my
just like,
gosh.
they were like, well, we'll get you get you a couple classes with one of the teachers. And I'm like, that doesn't help me. So I still haven't let it go. Like, I'm ready. My first interview on Jimmy Kimmel is going to be me being like, okay, before we talk about my TV show, I just need to tell you about what
Um,
happened to me.
yeah, William H. Macy can go hang himself.
You know what? I actually don't even think he knows. And because like he's so far removed from it, and I
Oh,
just
but I thought you
wanted
said they owned the school and they were
they
going to
own
teach the
it.
classes.
It's true. Like he knew it was canceled, but I don't think he understands how poorly the school is run. I think that
Oh,
he's very like disconnected from it, and it's like
got it.
other people that run it now.
Yeah.
He owns it, but like he doesn't give a shit. He's shooting,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I did see him my first month here. He was in the bar that I was in,
Oh.
and I was like, and
You're
everyone's
supposed
like,
to
go say
teach me.
something. Yeah, and everyone's like, go tell him, go tell him. And I was like, no, and I was too scared. And then finally I was like, okay, I'm gonna go tell him. And then I couldn't find him. But
Oh.
I will. Next time I see him, I legitimately will tell him.
Now enough time has passed. You're like, no, I'm
Yeah.
just angry. I'm
Yeah,
angry
now
enough
I'm so angry.
that I don't care what bridges are burned here
Yeah.
with
Oh
William
no.
H. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So acting in New York, and so let me just get the timeline right. So the friend you had in New York who did stand up, was that after the friend you had in LA who did stand up, or you?
Sorry, no, I had a friend in Toronto that did stand up.
Oh,
I
got it.
moved from Toronto to New York. My
Got
friend
it.
in New York did stand up,
And
and then
then
I
moved to
moved.
LA.
Yeah.
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 So what was different between, I mean, were you at all a part of the stand-up culture in New York? Just had a friend who did it.
Just had a friend who did it. Like,
Got it.
was not part of any sort of stand-up culture. And even
Yeah.
when I moved to LA, I was like, it did not cross my mind, like not for a second. I was like,
Yeah.
Groundlings all the way, improv all the way. I was on teams. I was doing all that shit. I did the Groundlings program, the whole thing,
Yeah.
besides writing lab in a year. Like I did all the
Wow.
levels. I was
Oh my
just like,
gosh, you were in.
yeah, I was in. And then I had a break, and I waitressing, there was 1 month where.
And when you say break, you mean you took a pause or?
Yeah, I took a pause
Okay.
because when you do groundlings, once you finish the last level, you go on to writing lab if you get accepted or if you're passed.
Uh-huh.
But it's like a wait list. It's like
Ah.
almost a year long. It takes a really long time to get in.
So that you were on the wait list for lab.
Yeah.
That was your break.
And that was my break.
Okay.
And then I had a friend in Groundlings, Hannah Dickinson, who's like an amazing stand-up comedian. She's in New York now, but we were in a level together and we got along. And I remember her like talking. I don't know, there were 2 stand-up comedians in my class. And even then I was like, you guys are crazy. Like, I can't believe what you do. But then when I had my break in Groundlings, I waitress, and there was 1 month where 3 different tables, was it a month or it might have been a week actually? Yeah, I think it was a week, not a month. There was 1 week where 3 different tables asked if I was a stand-up comedian, and I was like, no.
Jeez.
And then they were like, you should be.
Yeah.
And the first time I was like, haha, yeah, because I'm like really snarky and sarcastic and like fast.
Right.
Because I just don't care anymore. I'm over it. And
well,
then,
and improv teaches you to be that way.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
some extent. Maybe not the cynical, snarky part, but
no,
the thinking fast part for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And before when I waitressed, it was like me trying to be nice and like, please everybody.
Right.
And then like now I was so comfortable in my restaurant because I'd been there for 2 years, I guess. 3? No, 2. And so I was just like myself and not afraid of anybody and like just was over it. Like I used to be really polite and like timid or like when I first met you, I wasn't myself. And then the second time a table said it, I was like, huh, okay. And then the third time I was like, wow, like this is actually really, it was crazy. Like that's when I was like, maybe I just should try it. Fuck it. Like I was still scared, but I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll do it.
Wow. So that week was the moment.
That was the moment.
The signs from God that you needed to start stand up.
Yeah.
And what was your first stand-up experience like? Where did you go?
Well, what I did was actually a pussy move, and I did a workshop.
All right.
The thing that kind of drove me a little bit because I was like, okay, I want to try stand-up, but I don't know how, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
Sure.
But there was like this workshop that a casting director was holding, so I was like, you know what? I'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll do this casting director workshop that teaches stand-up.
Yeah.
Which like I don't recommend to anybody that wants to try stand-up, but
was it not very good?
No.
What kind of things do they tell you or teach you?
Like absolutely nothing. Like the only thing the reason why I did it was because I was still acting at the time or trying to, and then I was like, oh, I'll get in front. But it wasn't. It was like we would go in and she'd be like, okay, take 20 minutes to write about this topic or and then read me your like we'd have to read her what we wrote. And she'd be like, oh, that's a good point of view. Or that's a good this, like no joke structure. No, like absolutely nothing. And then like we went and wrote our own bits and our monologues that we were going to do. And at the time I was like, I felt like I was like, this isn't enough. Like I can tell that this isn't, this isn't how to do stand up. So I was reading a book and like figuring out how to do jokes while I was taking that course. But a lot of other people just had their like monologues about like their life experiences. And anyways, so I did the workshop, never got on stage until the night of the showcase.
Oh gosh.
Never touched a mic until the night of the showcase.
Jeez.
And then it was at the Improv.
Of course. Of course.
And then it was like, that was the first time I'd ever been on stage, touched a mic, had to
in the lab.
No, the main room.
The main room?
Yeah.
Nikki. Oh man, this is crazy. All right.
It's crazy. But I look back at my tape and it was still like, it was pretty good. Like, I look at it and I'm like, man, I wish I was still like that kind of energy, you know?
Right.
I was so like, but.
What book were you reading? Do you remember?
Judith, whatever her name is. I'm not good at
the Comedy Bible, or was it?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Oh no, not the Comedy Bible. It was a stand-up book. I didn't finish it. I just like was reading the types of jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you had the intuition to know that what this casting director was saying wasn't the whole truth.
Well, the good thing about it was like she definitely gave you confidence and like helped you figure out what brand you were and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But not even, because I realized I wasn't that brand. But it takes you a while to like learn your voice, you know.
Yeah, of course. And at least to get down writing, that's useful.
Yeah. Like like pumping us up to go on stage, but
right.
Oh.
So was anyone from the improv, booking department there at the showcase?
No.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, no way. She rents out the room, I believe. Like,
yeah,
they even put up like a blanket so you can't see the improv.
Oh. They were like, this is not us. We're not condoning this show. They're just using our space.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So after the workshop, you had at least a taste for it, that you liked it?
Yeah, I liked it. I was like, okay, that was actually pretty easy. It was like one of the easier things I had ever done in terms of like the arts and not having to work too hard to not book shows, but to not having to work too hard to
feel comfortable and
to feel comfortable. Yeah, to be like, oh, I actually could say I was good at that. So then the first year I didn't take it seriously. Like, I only did bringer shows, and I did them like once a month, and I wouldn't practice, and I would practice in my room before. I didn't go to mics. I wasn't ready to like give myself over to it. I was like, still, I'm an actor, and I just did it on the side for fun. Because I was like, it made me feel good because I was like actually good at it. So I would like do it for an ego boost, which is crazy because now I don't do it for an ego boost.
Well, once you start taking something seriously, then you realize, I think, oh, here's where I kind of messed up. I could have done this better.
Then you want to perfect it.
Yeah. The bringer shows, you did those where? At the improv or the store?
Comedy store. At the store in the original room. I did love those though. I loved them.
Which show was it? Was it the D's Nuts show?
Yeah. Have you done those?
I haven't done the D's Nuts one. No.
The crowds are so good.
Yeah.
D's Nuts, because they're just like,
well, and they've been doing it for a long time there too.
Yeah.
So and
like,
to be on the original room stage, come on.
Yeah, it's true. I wish that I could do that show without it being a bringer show, because it's just such a great
one
room.
day. One day, Nikki, they'll call you up.
True. You know what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then finally, after a year, I started doing it a bit more and more, and then I was like, okay, actually, and people were like, you're good at that. Like, why aren't you trying harder?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm doing all this other stuff. And then I went back to Groundlings, and then I realized that I was in it, and I was like, I like stand up way more than this.
Oh,
and
interesting. Like, you made the lab, so you were on the writing squad?
Yeah. And I just started to dip my feet more into stand up in terms of like doing at least like 4 mics a week.
Yeah.
But I didn't force myself. It was like, so then once I realized like, oh, I actually I like it so much more.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, you have to take it seriously, and you have to like actually go up at least 7 to 10 times a week, and you have to
you have to write it out. Take note of which jokes work, which ones don't, why not. So what did you like about stand-up so much? What was it about it?
I guess first of all, I liked the people better. I liked that I could be like mean. I could be myself and mean and sarcastic, and like, like I could just shoot the shit.
Sure.
I thought I liked the people better, but now I'm like, the more you're in stand-up, the more you're like, oh, these people are annoying.
Well, I think,
not everyone, but
you got to find your pockets, right?
Yeah. You know, the ones that aren't going to make it. Those ones
we'll discuss our list.
I just felt like I finally became myself, was what happened, actually. I felt like it was the only place not the only place, that's such bullshit, like besides like how I was with my friends, but in the industry, it was the first time that I was like every time I go to an agent meeting, I'd be, as I said, I was so like, and then I was like, what the, I could
Who am
actually
I
like
trying to impress?
yeah. And I was like, this isn't, you're annoying. You're annoying. Like and I just felt like I could be, it helped me discover who I was. The more I started doing it, even before I started taking it seriously, I realized like my voice, not my voice in stand-up, but my voice of who I am.
Yeah.
And it started to help me with acting, with commercials, because I was like, I am not going to be your spokesperson. I'm going to be the one, like I just did a commercial where I'm angry on a bus. And it's like, it made me realize who I am. Yeah.
I can totally see you doing that.
Yeah. So I loved that. I found myself, but I also just what I loved was being able to share like my past and my vulnerabilities and putting it out there for other people to feel comfortable with themselves. Like I've always been like, my friends would always call me the dog because I just want to make everybody comfortable and make sure everybody like, okay, like I'll be the one to like embarrass myself or say something really raw or honest in order to crack the ice for everybody.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like bringing a room of people together. And if I can like be honest and tell you like my pain or what my insecurities are or my past, and you have the same past as me, and then we can both laugh at it just to make people feel comfortable. And when I realized that I got to like do all that shit that I like to do with my friends or in social setting, I was like, this is so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I find it interesting that a lot of people find, public speaking typically is like the number one greatest fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I, like you, started in improv. I didn't do improv for nearly as long as you did and not nearly as formally as you did. But when I started with improv, I also thought I could never do stand-up. That seems terrifying because it's just you up there. But there is something really liberating and safe about just being you. Up there.
Yeah.
Which is perhaps a little counterintuitive, but very fun. Interesting. So once the world opens back up, Nikki, we'll see you at the D's Nuts show as not a bringer, as a true, legit comedian.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting.
Wait, I have a question. What are all the things behind you? What are you getting?
Well, these are my many accolades and awards from this glorious world of ours. So there's my undergrad diploma from BYU. That over, oh my gosh, it's so hard to do this reverse. Who's getting motion sickness? That is my law school diploma from UNC. That's the North Carolina bar certificate because I was licensed there and practiced. And this most proud of all. Oh my gosh.
Best comedian.
Hillcrest Elementary. You can't see because the light. There you go. Hillcrest Elementary School.
Elementary school?
Yeah, baby. In Utah, I was the best comedian in my 4th grade, 5th grade class, something like that. There you go.
That's so funny. You're a lawyer? You're a lawyer too?
I was. I don't know if it's fair for me. I'm retired. I'm a retired attorney.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were you an attorney for?
So I worked with a small law firm in North Carolina for a little over a year doing business stuff, mostly contract review and editing. We help small businesses, typically family-owned, a lot of real estate, some tech companies out there. Help them do corporate governance stuff and land deals mostly. It's very fun.
You're crazy. Okay.
Wild. I'm a wild and crazy guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Where did you grow up, Nikki?
Toronto.
Okay, Toronto. Yeah. And then how did your family end up on the East Coast?
Well, like Toronto is east. It's not the East Coast, but like east. Toronto's East Coast.
Yeah.
We call ourselves East Coast.
Okay, I'm thinking of Canada. You're not Toronto, Canada?
Yeah, Toronto, Canada, but it's right by New York.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That is true. So fun fact about me, I served my mission for the Latter-day Saint Church in Quebec, which is really the East Coast of Canada, right?
Yeah. It's so, really, yeah. Okay. You're getting like, I mean, I have to feel like what would you call Toronto?
Canada, the Midwest, flyover state.
No. say?
No, Toronto's definitely east. It's definitely
you made
east.
me
You're
doubt
right.
myself. I was like, am I so stupid? What did I say?
No, you're not. It's your country. I don't know. Whatever you guys called it is correct. I have no idea. But I just didn't. Anyway, that's just not in my mind. It was not like, it is very close to New York.
Yeah, okay, but it's
fair enough.
We're East Coasty. We're more East Coasty than Quebec. Our
Yeah,
vibe.
like you mean in terms of United States East Coast?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
for
our
sure.
vibe, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Quebec is a very confused place. It's very interesting. I love it. Can't wait to go back. We all got to go back for JFL at some point, right?
True.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So Toronto, and when did you move to the US? Is that when you moved to New York?
Yeah, in 2012.
Ah, 2012. Gotcha.
2012.
So have you gone through the citizenship stages for the
Yeah,
US,
my dad's American, so I got dual citizen.
Look
So
at
I'm
you.
in.
You're
Yeah,
easy
I'm here.
peasy. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Lucky
so many
you.
passports.
Good you made it in right before coronavirus. Good 8 years before COVID.
Yeah, it's true.
And now you're never getting out.
Now I'm never leaving. Now I'm like actually here.
Yeah. Are you ready to talk about religion now?
Yes.
Let's do it. This is my favorite part. So God obviously told you had to be a comedian. Did you grow up believing in God? All these signs he sent you with these people you had to serve? No religion at all growing up.
Like literally absolutely no religion whatsoever. So my dad wasn't around mostly when I was growing up, but he believes in God, but he's not really religious. He more like believes in God. He reads like AA, like he's, but he did grow up with a religious family. So I didn't have him impact me. My mom did not. Like I haven't ever been to church a day in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But I did believe, like, because I didn't know about religion, I did still, like, when bad things happened, I would go, dear God, and I would, like, pray. But I didn't know what I was doing, but I would pray, like, I'd pray all the time, like, please don't let there be a war. Like, that's all I cared about. I was, like, so afraid of war. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Rightfully so.
So I did pray to God then, but I'm so dumb when it comes to religion because I wasn't raised on it. Like people make religious jokes and I'm like,
I don't get it.
Be like, I'm Mary, and I'm like,
that is a funny name, I guess.
Yeah.
So wait, why would you pray to God if you didn't? I mean, so you say you had a concept of God.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
what's your relationship with religion or God?
Okay, so I believe now that there's like a higher source, but I don't picture that person as God. I don't picture it
with a beard.
No. Okay. I believe like that there is a greater source. Let's say I call it source. Like I believe like I listen to Abraham Hicks, who's like, do you know who that is?
I don't.
It's this woman who like channels the spirit Abraham, and she talks about like source in the universe and like believing things, and they come to like I believe in the universe. I call it the universe. I'll say that. Like
sure.
I will like trust in the universe, and I will like turn to that, and I like do all that kind of hocus pocus type shit. So I believe that there is something else.
So like manifestation, like you do the manifesting.
Yeah, and I do believe, because like when I was a kid, I do believe there's some I do the manifesting. I try to, but I do trust now. Like I believe that there's something there that has helped me out. Because like when I was a kid, when I was a kid, I had some pretty crazy shit happen to me the first like 7 years of my life. I was in a bank robbery, held at gunpoint.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like 4 years old, and then I saw a plane crash 2 years later, maybe a year later. So I saw two crazy things happen, and it made me be like, shit actually happens. But
Yeah.
I think because I heard of God, because people would talk about God. My
Okay.
grandma like gave me a cross necklace, but she never like told me. No one ever taught
What it
me
was
about
for?
God.
Yeah.
Like it
Interesting.
was like I knew there was the Bible. I
Yeah.
knew she had it. Like everybody had the religious shit, but no one ever um
Talked about
like
it,
talked about it. Yeah.
like the particulars of it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so when I would get panicky, so I just remember times when like my great aunt got cancer, and I was like, I had a list of what I would say to God at night. And I said God because people talked about God, and I was like, I guess I should be praying. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember being like, am I supposed to be on the end of my bed like this? And that felt weird to me, but I would
Yeah.
like sometimes do it, and then I would lie in bed like this and pray, and then I'd be like, are my prayers even gonna come true? I'm not doing
Interesting.
it right. But
Yeah.
then shit I prayed for would happen.
Okay.
And like the woman stopped getting sick, and I was like,
Yeah.
she had cancer and it went away, and I was like, I prayed for that.
Yeah.
And then like I was really, as I said, really obsessed with war. So when 9/11
Right.
happened,
Yeah.
even though I was out of the God phase, but I still was like, guys, I said no war, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt very like I didn't have a religion, but I did think that there was like, it was helpful for me to think that there was something to turn to. But
Yeah.
I had a lot of synchronicity in my life. Like I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times where I was saved, or like, I don't
Yeah.
know, shit
Yeah.
like
I
that.
mean, I would call that proof. You had a lot of proof that God
Yeah.
existed. Yeah.
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 Yeah. You'd call that proof.
Ah. So, I mean, do you believe, so now you believe in like a universe or sort of a source, some kind of force
Yeah.
that like, is it guiding us? Is it guiding you? Or what's our relationship? What's your relationship with the force now, with the source?
My relationship is that if you, I think that it is guiding us, but I think that it's not guiding everybody if you are closed off to it and you're not open to see like what's being led. Like I can tell, like I'll be like, oh my God, I have not been paying attention at all.
Hmm.
Or like when so I think that it guides. I think it takes work to get the guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not doing the work, you won't really be led. Or if you're not opening up your eyes to it, or like I'll say to something will happen to my friend, and I'll be like, yeah, that's like the universe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's so, that's, it's so hard, because it's like, yeah, bad things happen to people. And it's like, that was the other thing I couldn't wrap my head around with God when I was a kid. I was like, if there's a God, then why do bad things happen to these
Sure.
people? Why are countries fighting? Why? I didn't
Right.
understand that. I was like, how does
Why did
everybody
this
not
plane
see?
of people crash?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So I think that, I don't know. I don't know if Source like looks out for everybody, because like, especially being in LA and seeing like the homeless, and like, don't you see these people? And I just think like, fuck, you had bad luck, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that you were a human before this.
Yeah.
Um,
No, they're still human. Sheesh.
no, well, they are, but like they're not present with what's going on.
Not
They're not.
all. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Oh
think
yeah, I'm talking about
some.
like the drugged up ones
Yeah. Yeah.
that are
And see,
like
I guess.
schizophrenic, and I feel so
Right.
bad, and I'm
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
how did this happen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's schizophrenia, right? That's how it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it is mental illness. Some is
Yeah.
drug induced, but most, I think, is not drug induced. It's certainly not
Yeah.
helped by the drug abuse. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think some it's bad luck, some it's bad choices. Most it
Yeah.
is mental illness, mental
Yeah.
health issues. So interesting. Okay, so many questions. First, I have to know about the plane crash. Where were you when this plane crashed?
I was at an air show in Toronto on the
Okay.
lake, on Lake Ontario,
All right.
and it was a German bomber. And
Well, I
I
mean, they
can
had
send
it
you the
coming.
link. Yeah, well, there you go.
Oof.
True.
This
There's
was
a link on
recorded.
YouTube. Well, I didn't know until just recently, like 2 years ago
Yeah.
or a year ago, someone looked it up and they're like, "Oh, was this it?" And it was
Oh my
recorded.
gosh.
And I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. And
Was
I
that
was
so
like,
traumatizing to witness again?
you know what's weird is it went faster in the video than it
Sure.
did in real life.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
Well, isn't there a phenomenon that when we experience trauma, time seems to slow down? Our brain kind of slows
yeah,
processing
maybe.
down. I don't know.
Maybe.
I may
I
have
don't
just made
know.
that up.
Yeah, it maybe that would make sense, like, because I was in a boat for the air
Mhm.
show. My mom worked at a news station and we were in the middle of the lake and we were by the crash zone, which like was the best spot, but you can only go there because she worked for a news station.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
it's coming around and
Jeez.
it's letting off sparks, and I
Yep.
love fireworks. And I was
So
like,
you're
"Look
just
at
like,
the
yeah.
fireworks, there's fireworks." And it went literally over top of us. And I remember it being so low and looking up and like it was like when you watch planes land, it was so
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
And then it just went down in front of me and just hit the water and exploded. It
Oh
was
my gosh. That's
crazy.
crazy. That is
Yeah.
crazy.
No fire though, just like water explosion
Yeah.
and impact.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Pilot dead on impact.
Everybody dead on impact. And then like the
Jeez.
seats were floating by us.
Oh my
Parts
gosh.
of the plane.
Oh, Nikki, that's awful.
It was
Oh my
I like
gosh. And
laughing
how
'cause
old were you? You said you were 4?
No, I was like 6 or 7.
Oh, okay. Jeez, that's the perfect
Yeah.
time. You're
Yeah.
just making lasting memories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof. Wow.
I know.
All right. So, okay, I just needed to know that.
Okay.
That's crazy. So, had you ever been drawn to religion or just to this idea of God?
So I was never drawn to religion. Creeped me out a little bit. Churches
Fair
creeped
enough.
me out. I
Yeah.
didn't like how they smelled.
Okay.
I
That's
didn't
an
like,
interesting, yeah.
yeah, I went to ballet there. I didn't like how they smelled. Everything seemed dirty.
And when you say
I didn't
churches, are you talking about Catholic church or what kind of church are you talking about? Like you went and did dance at
couldn't
a
tell you.
Lutheran church. Oh, I have no idea.
I
Okay.
have
You have no idea.
like legitimately no idea.
Yeah. Fair
Like
enough.
it was just it looked like a church. It smelled like a church. It's
Yeah. And it
a
was a
type of
funny
church.
smelling church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And ugh, yeah, I don't like church.
So no on the church, but you're okay with this idea of God.
Yeah.
How do you feel like your abandonment issues dealt with, or morphed into, like, I guess really interacted with your idea of God or affected your idea of God?
That's a good question. To be honest, I didn't know about my abandonment issues until like 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Sure. But I mean, so
you think that they affected
I don't think
my
many
view of God?
7-year-olds are like, man, I
Yeah.
feel so abandoned by I need God, and I imagine God this way because
I knew that I had an issue. Like I knew that I couldn't have long distance relationships. My whole life I knew that. Like I just got bored.
I mean, most people know that, but yeah, fair enough.
But I guess I don't know how it affected my abandonment issues affected the God thing and the religion thing. I'm trying to think if I ever read any religion whatsoever. I've read about Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
I did last year. I like that.
Yeah.
I like Buddhism.
What did you like about Buddhism?
I liked the openness. I liked that it was very much like I could relate to a lot of the things that they were saying were things that I have thought on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't actually tell you anything off the bat right now.
Well, like, do you believe in reincarnation?
I hope there's reincarnation.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know for sure. Here's my thing though. Okay.
Yeah.
My house that I lived in when I was a kid was haunted.
Oh.
My mom has
oh
seen
my gosh.
a lot of ghosts.
No kidding.
My mom saw my dad's ghost.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's why I don't really know about reincarnation, and maybe that could affect like me believing in God is like then answer who these ghosts are. Like who are these people
Sure.
Like my house was so haunted that my mom would have people over and they'd be in the basement and they would hear the front door open, shut, footstep, footstep, footstep. And everyone was like, we have to get our purses. We have to get our purses. And my
Oh
mom was
my
like, no one's
gosh.
upstairs. Like really crazy shit.
That is crazy. So did you
Yeah.
feel like it was an evil ghost, or was it always just kind of talked about as restless spirits? You know what I mean?
It seems like it was half evil, half not. My mom said that. I don't
So
remember
a normal
it.
person.
Well, the story about him was, what happened was, first of all, I would be talking to the wall, and she'd be like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'd be like, "The man, the
Oh
man."
my gosh. I'm gonna have to stop this podcast. This is freaking me out. Okay, yeah. So you're just some freaky girl talking to the wall because you see a ghost. Go on. You were dressed in an all white little gown.
God.
Ah. Oh
So
man.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So
I
you're
was
talking to this
the
ghost.
wall.
Yeah.
She said I did it a lot. Like I'd be having like da 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 da,
Yeah.
and it'd be like downstairs. I'd be upstairs, and
Wow.
when I think about it, like, okay, at first my parents would tell me once I started to form a memory. I remember my mom and dad would like talk. They were separated, but they would talk about this person, and I'd be like, oh yeah, who was the person that was living with us? Like I'd be like, who was the guy that was living with us?
Oh my gosh.
And they would be like, oh, that was just a guy
Nobody.
that came in and out. Like, yeah. And so
That was just a
like,
guy that died a while ago.
yeah, like I actually remember, like, I remember
Wow.
thinking to myself and saying, oh guys, but who's the guy that lived with us? Like I remember saying it.
Do you remember what he looked like?
I don't know if it's my brain making it up.
Yeah.
But I remember like I'm careful to say this because I really don't know if I'm making it up, but I see a face of like brown hair, like a bit of a like goatee sort of beard. But what happened was my mom called the Toronto Psychic Society to come in and figure out what was going on.
Sure.
Do you believe in this stuff?
Somewhat.
Okay.
I do somewhat.
Okay, so they got the Toronto Psychic Society to come in.
Yep.
And they were like, there's a spirit here, yeah. And they did this whole like seance thing.
Yeah.
And to prove, like, before they talked about like the ghost, they turned to my mom and was like, your dad is with us. And he says not to get a divorce. And no one knew that my parents were getting a divorce.
Oh
but they
my
were.
Gosh.
So my parents met because both of their dads had just died within 1 month of each other. And my dad was drumming at a wedding and he met my mom and they bonded over their dad's death. And like they would read like psychic books together, spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
And they like, that's what brought them together. But those two would never be together otherwise.
Sure.
So just to give you a bit of a backstory. So like,
both
their dads had died. And so anyways, it turns out that the story just told you that to like kind of give the psychics like some clout. They said that the guy that lived there, they said his name and they said that he used to beat his daughter and throw her down the stairs. And they wanted my mom's forgiveness because he was on the third plane, they said, before he crossed over. But he couldn't cross over until he got forgiveness. And
interesting.
She was like, no, I'm not forgiving him for that.
Wow.
And then they were like, well, he's not going to go over. And she was like, okay, fine, I forgive you.
Oh, jeez.
But I don't know if it worked. So that, to me, knowing that story has shaped my view of things. And then I'm like, so, okay, if that guy was stuck in purgatory, let's call it.
Yeah.
Then does that mean like good people like my grandma are just reincarnated and gone? Or like, do you have a little bit of time up there to haunt your, you know what I mean? Like, I believe in reincarnation. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Death is a huge fear of mine. I had panic attacks when I was a kid. I can spiral. I like will start crying and hyperventilating. I hate death.
All right.
Realized what death was.
Let's get off this topic immediately.
Okay. Yeah. Next.
Yeah. Do you believe in an afterlife? No. We'll move on to something completely different.
Not coming back.
I could not resist. So all right, I'll tell you why I sort of believe in ghosts, and then we'll move to the segment that I find the most entertaining, which is where I let you ask me, what's the deal with Mormons?
Okay.
So here's why I sort of believe in ghosts, and this is perhaps a lesser known belief of my faith, but we believe after you die, you go to one of two kind of mental or spiritual states. You either go to spirit prison or you go to spirit paradise. And the division is dependent upon whether or not you have been baptized in this life. So you could be a very good person, not have known about Jesus Christ, not have been in contact with anybody from my faith, never have been baptized, but you're a great person. You go to spirit prison, okay? But my faith also believes that we teach each other about the gospel after death. So those in spirit paradise go to spirit prison and tell these people about God, about Jesus Christ, and then, about what they need to do. And in our temples, we do what we call baptisms for the dead. So these people can then be baptized by proxy, and they can, as you'd say, cross over from spirit prison to spirit paradise. All that to be said, we don't think of these two places as actual physical places, like spirit paradise isn't in LA and spirit prison isn't in New York, for instance, okay? It is more just mental states of being after you've passed. But we do believe that the spirit world is on this earth with us. So this is where my belief of ghosts is, I think, somewhat founded in my own spirituality, my own faith. So I do think we can interact with these spirits because they're still around with us for good or for ill, right? I think they're like demon people out there that conjure hateful people from the past, who knows, to do certain things. I think it's possible. Freaks me out.
I think you should be more freaked out by the fact that you just called it spirit prison and spirit paradise.
I mean, I think that's pretty apt. I think it's pretty apt. Some people feel trapped.
God.
Some people feel free, baby.
Oh my God.
So,
honestly, my thing with religion is I just feel like they're all a cult. And like it freaks me out. I feel like everybody's brainwashed. I think it's amazing for everyone to believe in like what I believe in a source. And if you want to call it God, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much war based on religion because everybody's like, mine's right. When really it's everybody just wanting to believe that there's something bigger than us in order to survive our journey.
Yeah.
And we're fighting over it where it's all just fictional stories to comfort every type of person.
Well, maybe so. I mean, but mine is correct. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see, Nikki. We'll just have to wait and see. All right. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Like, you're in a cult. Yeah, let's go. That's my first question. Do you realize you're in a cult?
I am. It's a trick question. So I object, Your Honor. I object to the form of the question. Leading. I don't think I'm in a cult. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define a cult.
Do you wonder? Okay.
Sure,
Are we in this segment? Do I just ask you questions?
What's the deal with Mormons, Nikki? What's the deal with Mormons? What do you want to ask me?
Do you, even as a religious person, do you not wonder why there aren't more of you? What do you think is the reason?
Well, I think there are lots of reasons. I mean, finally, I think we each choose in the end what we believe. So some people choose not to believe what I believe, and that's totally fine. People have a lot of different reasons for believing what they believe. So no, I don't wonder why there aren't more of me.
Okay, but like, do you? I mean,
clearly there should be, right?
So
yeah,
your wife's Mormon.
Yeah.
Your kids are Mormon.
Yeah, I mean, so far, since we don't let them have their own lives. Yeah.
Are you going to make them not have sex? Did you have sex before you were married?
No.
Are you going to make your kids do that?
Well, I mean, since my parents accompanied me on every single date I went on until I was 24.
Oh my God.
No, that didn't really happen,
Oh my
Nikki.
gosh.
But no, I did not have intercourse before getting married. And yeah, I'm going to tell my kids that that's the way to go. That's the way to go.
No, do you
For
realize
sure.
that you're gonna raise
sure.
losers? You can't do that in this day and age.
I think you can. Actually, there are quite a few studies that talk about how happy people are with their sexual partner if they have had no other sexual partners before, right? And they talk to married couples who have been very sexually active before marriage, and the happiness factor is higher for those who were not sexually active. And sure, you could say it's because they didn't know what they were missing, but in the end, does it matter? No, because they're happier. If you think you're happier, are you happier? Yes. Yes, you are.
Okay. But like for argument's sake, we're
Sure.
in the year 2020.
Or
What year did
2021.
your religion start?
Well, this is a tough question. I will answer both. Okay. So the Latter-day Saint religion with Joseph Smith, 1830, right around there. But we believe that we have the same gospel that was taught to Adam and Eve. So beginning of time, I guess.
Okay, so here's the thing. Beginning in time versus now. Like
Yeah.
things are changing in the world.
Yeah.
People like all
For the
the things
better or for the worse? Do you think all things are changing for the better, Nikki? Or do you think all things are changing for the worse? Or is it a
well,
mix?
if we talk about technology,
Yeah.
the worse. If we talk
What?
about the way if we talk about the way that people are treated, equality better.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you think about like you guys are following rules that same with like the way the government works, same like all of it is so old school. So now your kids are going to grow up in a new world as opposed, and it's going to be forever changing.
Sure.
That it's kind of crazy that even not just your religion, but these religions where it's like don't have sex before you're married are expecting people of new generations to follow those rules when they've never been changed to conform with the way that the world is now.
Well, see, I don't think necessarily that societal changes when it comes to so here's what I'll say. There are aspects about society that have absolutely changed for the better, right? Male female equality. We're not quite there yet, but it's clearly going in the right direction, which is I suppose traditionally against religion in the broad sense, and that's fine. I think that's good that it's changing that way. Treatment of those who are not of the same outlook, treatment of the LGBTQ community, obviously getting better. That is very good. I don't know exactly why those even in my faith have mistreated those who are homosexual, because the Bible teaches us and Christ's way is to be kind and loving to all people. So I think there's been, some misunderstanding, some mispractice of religion that has led to some really terrible things. But I don't think it's better, that people are having more sex before marriage. I don't think that's a good thing.
Okay.
Should we be healthier about, so I guess here's the other thing. I don't think it's an either or, right? Like my kids already know what, at least my daughter who is 8, she knows what sex is. My wife and I are very open with her about sex. And my parents were really open with me about sex. Like I don't ever remember a time when I didn't know what sex was. So I think there is a way to raise children who are not afraid to talk about sex, who are not afraid to talk about their emotions, their desires when it comes to sexual things, but still not have sex before they are ready to have sex.
Wait a second. Yep. You talked to your parents about your emotional sexual desires when you were a kid?
Just that like I wanted to have sex. Yeah.
You'd be like, yo, Dad, I want to have sex.
My dad actually initiated a lot of these conversations. He was like, look, you're going to be going through puberty. You're going to want to have sex. You're going to want to masturbate. You're going to want to look at pornography. And these are all,
were you allowed to masturbate?
I mean, allowed to masturbate. You can, but it's considered sinful, you know?
So did you?
Yeah. Cause I was a
Okay.
typical adolescent.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you stop because you were like, oopsies?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. I have so many questions. I'm going to stay on the sex topic though.
Oh, okay.
Do you find that like, are you a very sexual person? Like, I'm just thinking if you weren't masturbating a lot, you're not going to be as sexual. And I openly will be like, I didn't masturbate until I was like 23 probably. Like, I just was really like, I thought, I don't know, was there a God telling me not to? I don't know. But
sure.
So
yeah.
I find that I'm not as like, I'll have sex, and like I used to be way more promiscuous in my 20s when I was like drinking and like wasn't dating anybody. But I find that being sexually, I feel like not being open and free to masturbate and being like comfortable with myself has deterred me from being comfortable with myself now. So, like, do you find that? So I'm just...
Yeah, no, there are definitely things about sexuality that I'm not like 100% comfortable discussing, right? But I do think it is a special aspect of my life that I talk about those things and work about talking about those things with my wife. Like, we have grown together sexually, which I think is the way it should be. And the reason I think that is the way it should be is a lot of my faith is based on sex not being an awful thing, but instead being a God-given power. Like, the end goal of those in my faith is to become like Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. So we believe God is, Heavenly Father and married to Heavenly Mother, and that is where we come from. We are their spirit children who get physical bodies through our earthly parents. So our goal is to become these heavenly parents for a whole new generation of spirit babies. So in that way, sex is like a very holy thing that really should only be practiced between a man and wife.
Okay, so what about though, because you guys won't know this, but it is true that like, yeah, you can have like a different kind of sexual energy, just like animals, right?
Sure.
Like the pheromones and the smells of other people, or like the way that, like, I have a friend who, when she would have sex with like this one guy, she'd always get a UTI, and it was like a certain kind of dick, no joke, that like gave her a UTI.
Sure.
So it's like, how do you know what it, like, in your head, like, you're like, well, we didn't know any other experience with anyone else, so we're happy. But we are animals. So like, there are going to be some people that you don't know if you actually are compatible with sexually, and then now you've married them and you're stuck with them. Like, I
think there is some of that same sexual energy that happens when you kiss someone, when you cuddle with someone, when you make out with someone, that is indicative, but indicative of the way it would be if you were to have sex with that person. So I don't think it's necessary to know if you're going to be physically compatible. I don't think it's necessary to have sex to know if you're going to be physically compatible with someone.
Okay, so now I'm wondering about your leader, the guy
Which
that
one?
went
Jesus?
into the forest and
Joseph
found
Smith.
Everything written on a gold. What was it?
So Joseph Smith, when he was 14, prayed about which church he should join. This is a very abbreviated version of his story, and received a vision where Jesus essentially told him, Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ told him to restore the gospel that had been lost from the earth, and he would receive instructions on how to do that. And he was later visited by an angel, Moroni, who told him where to find these gold plates. So he translated gold plates. That's, I think, what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those gold plates became the Book of Mormon.
So like,
yeah.
Look,
you just came back from talking about how you believe in ghosts. So
I know it's true, but
you know.
I saw them with my eyes.
Yeah. And, I have felt that the scriptures, the principles, the events in the Book of Mormon actually happened.
Okay. Have you read any other religion?
By have you read any other religion? You mean like any other religious texts?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I really have. No, I have studied about other religions, but I have not read any other religious scripture.
Okay. So, because for me to hear this guy say, this is what I was told, I'm going to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can you just trust him? Like, do you know how many people do that?
Yeah.
Like, cult leaders do that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Mormonism was considered a cult for a long time and is still considered a cult by some countries.
And what do you think of that?
I mean, it's fine. I think it depends on how you define cult, right? And what separates a cult from a religion. Some people don't define them differently at all. A cult is a group of people that worship or follow an individual, regardless of, their own thoughts or misgivings or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think religion is a very personal thing.
Yeah. And honestly, I do think that whatever helps people get by,
Yeah.
I do believe like what I believe in. If I'm feeling off, I'll go to like a healer. Like I have this healer that I go to, and she
Sure.
tells me like what my guide said, which is like the same thing that people do in a group, but mine's more personal to me. Like it'll like say stuff, but that's who I have to turn to.
Yeah.
But
Well, see, and that sounds more hocus pocusy to me than what I believe.
I'm not saying you're hocus pocus. I'm saying you're in a cult. That's what I'm saying. Because mine doesn't have rules. Mine's just like, what do I need to believe in?
Right. But
like,
then, what good is it if it doesn't have rules, Nikki?
It's the best. It's for your own personal well-being. It's your own personal journey, and I don't want to be dictated by a group of people that say you didn't do what we're all doing, so now you're kicked out. Like that's not. We are all spirit and individual.
Yeah, and I think that's a very fair point. But how do you get better as a person without limits?
Well, I feel like I am getting better as a person without limits. And I think that you have to stop and reflect and look at yourself and be okay with like, okay, so for example, if like there's a bunch of bad stuff happening to me, I am not like, I don't look at it anymore like the world sucks. I'm not lucky. I now am like, what am I doing wrong? What have I blocked? Where's my brain at? What's going on? What is causing this occurrence?
That's so, yeah.
What are you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that's interesting because that is also a very religious idea where good things happen to you because you are being righteous. I don't think that's an accurate portrayal of how we interact with God. Like, I don't think God is up there being like, oh, you did X, Y, and Z that was really good, so I'm going to give you these blessings.
Oh,
and if you're doing bad things, then bad things are going to happen to you.
No, it's more so how in tune I am and open and aware. And even if I'm like not in touch with myself, or if I'm thinking negative thoughts, or if I've realized a lot about myself in the past 5 years by going to therapy, but then also working with healers, but realizing like all the shit that I've done, like I've created or I have
contributed to, perhaps. Or Well, and I think that's very fair. Yeah. But I mean, even then, aren't you giving yourself rules and things that you need to do, strategies that you need to implement
Yes,
to avoid these bad situations?
You are right.
And see, that's the way I view religion. There are rules.
They are my own personal rules that
Yeah.
no one else can judge me if I break them.
Sure.
I'm allowed to create my own rules freely to, without judgment, without dictation, without repercussion, without all of that. But like, for example, let's like the freedom of sex, whatever you're raising your kids, but like I did go through a phase where I was like promiscuous, and then all of a sudden I stepped back and I was like, nope, no more. And like I made that rule for myself, and I was like, so
but why would you make that rule for yourself?
Because it felt right at the moment. Like I was like, I've had enough. That was enough of that. And I'm not going to have sex with anybody until they're going to be my boyfriend now. I just was like, I'm over it.
Until they're in a committed relationship with you, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or for all time and eternity, maybe.
Maybe. Listen.
All I'm saying is I totally respect that. And I think I agree with you that when it comes to religion, there's a lot of societal pressure surrounding following certain rules that is unhealthy. Totally agree with you. But I also think that there's this aspect of religion that a lot of our generation and the next generation really overlook, which is this: why don't we trust history? Why don't we trust a lot of other lived experiences that have led to some of these rules, right? So like the sex thing, right? Like the celibacy or abstinence before marriage and then celibacy after. All right. I said abstinence before marriage and celibacy after marriage, which obviously makes no sense. I messed up. I meant monogamous. You're monogamous with your spouse. No sex with other people. That's what I meant. Not celibacy. I messed up. I think that is a proven method to happiness for a lot of people.
But okay, if we think of history and we think of birth control and how there wasn't any, maybe, just maybe, these religions made up this rule because people who had sex before marriage were then having babies, and that was shunned upon, and then the babies were killed, or the people were killed, and they were witches and they were this. Like maybe these rules were made because they didn't have birth control. But I did see something. The one thing that made me off of religion was there was this documentary, and it proved that the cross and how religion started was actually made up of people's belief in astrology and when the sun set, and they didn't, and like the God is made up of the astrological chart and the way that the sun rose and then it set. And so people didn't have a concept of like what the world earth was, and so that's how God developed.
Interesting. I would love to see this documentary.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please
and
do.
On top of it, I'm like, don't you think the world would be a more peaceful place if there wasn't a divide in religion, and if everybody did believe in just, let's call it God?
Well, I mean, maybe. I think what we would have had was fights over oil, perhaps, which we still have. I think we would have had fights over slavery, which we still would have had, which was partially based in religion, I guess. But I think we would have fought over different things.
Okay, so my one other question is, are you going to be mad if your kids have sex?
No, I don't think anger is the right. I mean, so here's what I'll say. I would like to not be mad. I am an imperfect person, so I probably will be upset, but I'm going to have to work very hard to not be upset. I think when people make those kinds of decisions, it is based on a lot of factors. And me being mad at my daughter or my son for doing that will not help them think about themselves well, if that makes sense. I mean, my first priority is that my kids are happy, and I don't think my religion prevents that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You know?
And what if they don't want to be Mormon anymore? Because I know a guy who was Mormon, and he didn't have sex, and he was with his girlfriend until he was 33.
Yeah.
He soaked. I heard about the soaking. Yeah, where you just stick your flaccid dick in there and let it sit there without penetrating.
That's not a real thing. I mean, you know, it's not a loophole.
Okay.
Anyhow, go on. Yeah.
Okay, so that, and then they finally had sex.
Well,
and
you mean
she was like,
they did it again, but go on.
Yeah. And then, but she had told him that she actually lost her virginity to someone else while they were in the relationship because she was so sexually frustrated.
Ooh. Well, how long did they date?
Like 10 years.
Yeah. See, that is terrible. I think people, you know, they should have gotten married. If they were going to be together that long, they should have gotten married so they could have had sex and then they would still be together.
Okay.
You know, or maybe not. I mean, some people get divorced because things just don't work out, but
are you guys allowed to get divorced?
Yeah. I mean, so I guess the thing, like, you keep asking it in a way that's like you're allowed. It's not encouraged, you know, but we're allowed to do a lot of things that are not encouraged. Divorce is not encouraged, but it's not like you get excommunicated or kicked out of the religion for being, you know, for getting divorced.
But are people like, ooh, Seth's divorced? You hear it, like, it's like the 1940s.
I think it depends on the reason for the divorce. If you get divorced and it's pretty well known, like if I divorced my wife because she's pretty well known for earning all of our money, for being a fantastic person, yeah, I think I would be like, what was wrong with you? You did something. Something was happening. Something was going on. But there are tons of cases where typically the woman is being abused and she gets divorced. Those cases are not met, I don't think, with the social stigma of like, oh, she messed up. You know, she's whoring around. So we're allowed to get divorced. I think the cultural stigma depends on why and probably community's opinion of the husband and wife. But yeah, you're allowed to get divorced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's all my questions.
Man, this was a great discussion. This was really good. I hope people enjoy it. This is not, you asked some very good questions, because typically I get like, are Mormons still polygamy? Like, do they still practice polygamy? And, you know, softball questions.
Yeah.
You went for the heart. You went for the heart and guts. That was good.
What I do. It's just my thing with religion. I just like, I don't know. I just feel like since I was a kid, I was like that. I just like would have these profound, to me, thoughts of like, wait a second, if everybody realized this, then everything would be okay.
Well, I mean, I think the same thing. If people just realized that we could all be gods and goddesses after, everything would be pretty cool. You asked me if I was going to be upset if my children didn't want to be Mormon anymore.
Yeah.
No. I mean, again, it would be sort of the same kind of, I would be sad. I would be curious and hope that they would talk to me about why they didn't want to be Mormon anymore. I have a brother who's pretty open about his issues with the church and with the faith. And
what are his issues?
He's not super active anymore.
Oh.
He had a lot of issues with something called the Mountain Meadow Massacre. So there was a war over Utah, and you know, some sort of military issues when Utah was becoming a state, and a lot of the saints, so a lot of the followers of the faith, right? So just so you understand, I don't know how much you know about my church's history. In America, started in New York, right? They're kind of kicked out of the East, and they slowly moved west, and eventually moved all the way to Utah, and essentially claimed it as, you know, Zion. So as they did missionary work and brought people into the faith, they all started moving to Utah. So Utah became, you know, Mormon Mecca. And as it got bigger, they wanted to be a state so they could get, some of the rights that were federally allowed and all of that nonsense. And in order to do that, there was some, conflict, right? During the conflict, there was something that happened called the Mountain Meadow Massacre, where a group of Mormons were escorting some just normal people out of Utah and killed them all, like all of them. This was like a couple hundred people that they killed, if I remember right. And it was terrible. And the church organization, there was, I think, some kind of nuance and mystery about how high up this plot went to kill all of these people. And at some point, it was suggested that the prophet knew that this was going to happen and did nothing to stop it. I think, and the prophet at the time was Brigham Young. Joseph Smith had been killed in Missouri a few years before this. I think most of those have been debunked. That is, that Brigham Young, the prophet at the time, had no idea that this was going on. And if he did, that he had strongly discouraged it. And a lot of church leaders strongly discouraged it, but it happened anyway. And then the church decided to cover it up. And so it wasn't really talked about for quite a while. And so my brother had a lot of issues with that. It is now pretty openly discussed. I don't remember ever not knowing that it happened. But for whatever reason, he felt like that was an issue. He has some other issues, I think more theological issues about Joseph Smith as a person and his, portrayal of God and relationship with God. There are certainly aspects of the church that have not been, excellent, right? We didn't allow, as a faith, we didn't allow those of African descent to hold the priesthood until like the 1960s, something like that. Or 1970s. Anyway, it was pretty late, So he had also some issues with polygamy that ended in 1890. So he has there are a lot of things that we could be upset about with the Mormon faith.
But you're like, you know what?
Well, I think some of it is that I separate the church as an organization from the gospel that it teaches. And yeah, I don't know if that's a commonly held belief within my faith, but I do think that the church as an organization has made many mistakes in the past, and it will continue to make mistakes because it's led by people on this earth. I think the gospel is led by, Jesus Christ, a perfect individual, and that won't ever change. So
would you ever be like, hey kids, this is our religion, when they start to learn about religion in school and like people are like, ha, you're a Mormon, because like,
sure,
people make fun of
weirdos.
Mormons. Yeah. Will you ever be like, you guys are each individuals? Like, because I feel like parents with kids now are very much like, you want to be a boy, girl, cat, dog, you can be whatever you want to be.
Right.
And
which
so
I think
like
is stupid, but yeah.
Would you ever like tell them that this is your religion, but they're free to like do whatever they want, or you're like going to keep hush hush about that?
No. I mean, I've attended, like I went to a Hare Krishna service when I was at BYU, and attended some other Unitarian faith service as well. Very interesting. I don't see a problem if my kids are like, hey, we're starting to learn about these other religions. I want to go. LA is a perfect place to be like, let's find it. Or you can find just about anything out here. No, I would be fine with them exploring another faith. And even going, I would attend it with them. But I would say, we raise you as a Latter-day Saint. And if you can't explain to me why this other religion for you is better, then I'm going to struggle supporting you in that other religion. But it's clearly your choice. It's their choice. Okay. That all being said, we do baptize people in our faith at the age of 8 years old. So we get them pretty early.
I thought you were going to say 80. I was like, wow, you're really trying to get everybody in, aren't you?
Well, no, I mean, you can get baptized at any age. We just count the age of accountability. That is when you can make a decision about whether or not you want to continue in this faith or in this path.
Yeah, 8 is very early.
Yeah. But you're also forming memories. You're forming relationships with people that will last.
You're forming your brain when it's still mushy and you don't really know what's going on.
Sure. But, there's nothing that will prevent her from exploring other religions in the future. I'm fine with that. Honestly, I'm okay with that. But yeah, she's going to be raised with Latter-day Saint ideals, Latter-day Saint beliefs. I think all with sort of the caveat that, as I said before, religion is a very personal thing. So there are certain rules or aspects of the church that are not rules or aspects of the gospel. So there are certain aspects of the church that I think, like how long we have church for on any given Sunday, is totally arbitrary, And under this pandemic, we're doing all church at home, which has been fantastic. So we have a spiritual message that's about 2 minutes long, and we do our sacrament, our bread and water, and then we're done for the day, right? Yeah.
Sounds to me like you don't really want to go to church anymore.
There are aspects of going to church that are tough and challenging. But it is, it's a community experience, right? So there are certain aspects of it when it comes back that are really good, really beneficial. But for now, it's a great excuse not to have to go.
Yeah, sounds like you're ready to rebel.
She says, hopefully. No rebellion from me, Nikki. At least not yet. Maybe.
I'm going to get him. I'm going to start a podcast called I'm going to get Seth to
That's
run
great.
from his
Well,
religion.
I would love to be a guest on your podcast at some point, and we can debate religion more. This has been very entertaining.
I'd love debating religion.
It's fantastic. Well, and see, what I hope to do with this podcast is not convert every comedian I talk to. Secondary goal. But no, first to just model. We had, I think, a pretty personal discussion. And I don't think we hate each other after this. I think we've done this pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Hopefully people who listen to this and are having the same discussions with their family or friends can also learn like, oh, I don't have to hate this person if I disagree with them about something.
Right. Like you and I don't know if you've had anybody else like me, but we're on very opposite spectrum. Like coming from no religion, coming from no that's where I really differ from a lot of people. I don't really know anybody else that has never gone to church ever. So
that is a new thing. Yeah. I have had people who are quote unquote devout atheists, right? People who are convinced there is no God, and that's also a very different perspective than I have.
That's still conforming to a group of people.
Oh, you're so nonconformist, Nikki. We're all so proud of you.
I just am happy in my bubble.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm excited for is when we all pass on to the other side.
I'm not excited for that. I said I don't want to talk about that.
And you have to recognize that I've been right this entire time.
Oh my God. My worst nightmare. I thought I was afraid of death, and now I'm terrified because if I got you coming down, told you so.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I told you so until after, everything was cool. It'd be a couple years into the eternity, and then it'd be like, hey, Nikki, remember when I told you so? That was pretty fun.
I'm going to be chilling in my ghost world, hanging out with people and be like, no, fuck off. I'm good.
Yeah. And people can do that until the great judgment. And then we're all slotted into different heavens. That's going to be very exciting.
Paradise. You couldn't come up with another name than paradise?
Well, that's just part of it. That's just the immediate after death. And then there's Judgment Day, where we all, have to face our inner selves and realize that we belong in a certain area of heaven, a certain glory of heaven.
Yeah.
Some of us are going to belong up with the top dogs. Some of us are going to belong with the lower dogs.
Okay.
And that's just, we're going to be where we're most comfortable. What I like about my faith when it comes to the trauma is we're all going to be really happy for the rest of forever.
For the rest of forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that's a good reason to be in that religion if that's what you think. That's a
That is-
positive guy right there.
It's truly what I think. And I knew that at the end we would get you to convert. So I'm glad we'll set a date. Oh
I'm
my
like, now we gotta
goodness.
soak, Matt. No more sex. Now we're just soaking all day.
No, remember that is still cheating. That is not okay.
It's cheating, but
You
it's
have to go,
less.
just tell Matt you're going into abstinence. We have to, until you're serious, Matt, we can't do this anymore. Till I got a ring on it. My gosh. Nikki, it is so good to see you again.
You
It
too.
is
That
so
was
good to
fun.
talk to you. Anything you want to plug? Anything you got going on? Any podcasts you're going to start?
Yeah, I'm actually doing a podcast. It's almost done, but I'm kind of waiting to release it where I teach my absentee dad how to be a father.
Wow. What a great podcast.
It's pretty funny and
That's
also like
fun.
really fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Like the guy doesn't get it. Like I'm telling you, like I make progress and then we go back to like it took like 5 episodes for him to be like, but what do we do?
So is it really like with your father?
Yeah, with my dad.
Wow.
So, because like he's a rock and roll guy.
Oh,
he was gone for a
gosh.
while. We started to reconnect in like mid-20s.
Yeah.
And then now he's like trying to be more in my life. So I was like, all right, this is what dads do. But because he doesn't get it, like what made me realize he didn't get it was he'd be like, no, people think you're funny and you're sexy on stage. And I'm like, Dad, you can't call me sexy. And he's like, why not? And I'm like, I don't understand. So like it's actually like me teaching him what he can and cannot say, but also like doing things like I got him to teach me about the birds and the bees and I get him to like do all the things that he didn't have to do because I don't want to let him off the hook.
Yeah.
And like
what a great podcast. Nikki.
Yeah.
That is so fun. You have a title?
Yeah. I'm like debating between 4 titles still. It's hard to come up with a title for it because I was going to make it how to be a father, but it needs to be something different. So it's either going to be Bobby's back.
Okay.
Or Hey Dad ?
Oh.
Or Hey Dad, what the fuck? Because like because you liked that one the best because it's actually like stuff that he does is actually like and he's addicted to Nicorette, so he's chewing Nicorette the whole time, which is why it's taking me all of quarantine to edit, and then I'll be like, Dad, what's in your mouth? Like he's a child.
All the faux pas.
It's
That's
great.
amazing.
Yeah, he's a space cadet, so
maybe that's what you could call it, faux pas, but PA.
Faux pas.
There you go.
Pretty good.
It's not bad. I'm just saying you can throw it in the mix. That's all I'm
going
saying.
to throw that in the mix. I like that too. Thanks.
Yeah. No problem. Nikki, thank you. Where can people find you? Is it Instagram that you use most?
Yeah. I mean, Instagram, Nikki Bon, NIKKIBON. Twitter, the Nikki Bon. And then, I mean, I'm like on TikTok, but who knows what the...
Can't wait for those TikTok vids. All right. Well, I'll put the Instagram in the show notes for people who would like to follow you. Nikki's fantastic. And when the world comes back, we are going to be in Arizona at some point with the World Series of Comedy again. And she performs all over LA. So keep an eye out for when we can go out. Thanks, Nikki, so much.
Thank you.
All right. Happy 4th. Have a good weekend.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you too. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.